Episode 24 of the 100 book challenge is here. This is a good one. This was another great surprise. I don't know why it was even surprising. I don't know, but it was surprising to me in a very good way. Let's talk about it. I'm here in front of my coveted Ace Double collection. You can see there, and there's more going all the way to the floor. Love the Ace Doubles. I've always loved the Ace Doubles since I was a kid. The local library had a science fiction section that was just chock full of them, and I remember as a kid checking some out and just loving the idea that there's two great works of science fiction illustration on both sides that, of course, just gets right to you. And do we judge a book by its cover? Maybe, right? So here's what I'm going to talk about today. This is the Ace Double from May of 1973. And in no particular order, really, well, kind of. Hierarchies by John T. Phillifent. Well, let's get rid of that right away. Get rid of that. It sounds terrible. This was fun. Light sort of science fiction caper kind of thing. Very much of its day. I didn't, dislike it or anything. It's fine. I think for that kind of funny, fun, silly caper sci-fi story, my my guy over here, Ron Goulart, does it better. It was a thing that was happening in the early 70s, and it was fine. Today, I really want to talk about the book that's on the other side, which is Mr. Justice by Doris Piserchia, an author who just completely missed my attention. And that is my fault, and I feel bad about it. It's crazy that I have not read her before this. Started to hear her being talked about in some of the sci-fi booktube kind of community, and talked about very positively, right? And I recognize that name. Well, I have her in one of the Ace Doubles. Well, okay. And so I kind of do that where you can see, maybe you can't down here, a book that's kind of flipped over on its side. Those are some that I'm kind of, hey, I need to pay attention to those. These are the most interesting to read next. And I had this one flipped over. And when it came up time to read another Ace Double, I thought, let's try out this Doris Piserchia person here. Oh, my Lord. How is it even possible, right? This book is 52 years old. And I talked about this a little bit with stuff like that Ron Goulart book. So spot on. Prophetic in the sadly relatable way that's just sort of like, wait, oh. So here it is, the early 1970s. This is the 60s crashing to an end, and boy, the 60s crashed to an end, right? The hippies were already in progress of somehow metamorphosizing, one might say degrading, into the yuppies. Nixon ruled supreme. And really, I think this kind of, I'm loath to call it dystopian future that we occupy now, right? I think there's a lot more hope than social media would point you to. But it seems to assume, this book, that this sort of, Trump's America, or this sort of conservative dystopia is a fait accompli. In its sort of basic form, this is a time travel story, where Mr. Justice is essentially this time-traveling vigilante and who is murdering people across the timeline. And there are these sort of organizations who are trying to figure out, is this even real? Is this happening? What is this? And I feel like any more that I go into there is going to feel spoilery, because for this book, it's the writing, it's the realization of this, what seems like kind of a simple idea, that is just phenomenal. So this is Doris Piserchia's first published novel. This is another win for the Ace Doubles line. You'd be surprised, maybe you wouldn't be, how many authors of significant note got their starts in the Ace Doubles. People who poo-poo the Ace Doubles need to stop poo-pooing. You don't poo-poo, don't poo-poo the Ace Doubles. Anyway, this was her first novel, 1973. She published 13 in all, 2 of which were under the pen name of Kurt Selby. And her career really spanned, at least as a novelist, from 1973 to 1983, which is when her daughter apparently passed away, leaving her with her granddaughter, who was then 3 years old, and she became her granddaughter is obviously her full-time guardian. And this is a thing that happens, writers, right? That life happens. And things like that can, and it seems like as though certainly in this case, derailed a writing career. These things happen. And why did somebody all of a sudden, it seems like they stopped writing, they're not writing anymore? There's lots of reasons for that. And here's one. She was born in 1928 in West Virginia, spent a few years in the Navy, and then came out to get a master's degree in educational psychology. I'm reading this, and there's something about that degree that really resonates with the writing and with what was happening in Mr. Justice. Sort of lived in New Jersey, married, and then this turn happened. It looks like she started writing, or at least her first published work was a short story called Rocket to Gehenna in the September 1966 issue of Fantastic. So, it was sort of the career trajectory of authors back then, right? Get some short stories out in magazines, get noticed. I believe Donald Wollheim was still the editor of Ace Doubles in 73. I may have to check that. And, obviously recognize the brilliance of this novel. It is incredible, right? It's this novel it's political corruption, right? That really seamlessly blends with things like organized crime, violence, greed, drug abuse, right? Fear of the other, fear of the future, it's the petty cruelty, right? Of the same kind of loose coalition of cults, political and religious cults that kind of have seized control of America in 2025, or more or less kind of trying to anyway. This is not some throwaway pulp story. It is absolutely not. It is, without a doubt, a work of new wave science fiction, and Doris Piserchia demands, deserves, and has to take her place among that pantheon of new wave authors. Harlan Ellison, J.G. Ballard. She is every bit as good, every bit as talented, every bit as relevant as any of those other authors there. I think people in 2005 are going to love this book. Get it. You got to find it. Find it. I'll have links to wherever I can find on Amazon, etc. Just find Mr. Justice by Doris Piserchia. This made started with me being a fan of Ace Doubles and made me a fan of Doris Piserchia. I identify now as a Doris Piserchia fan. So this is number 24 in the ongoing 100 book challenge. When I am permitted to buy books again, it will be a priority for me to find and read all of the rest of Doris Piserchia's novels. I'm in now, right? So it has been busy. I am behind. I don't remember. Maybe I'll put it down here if it matters when I actually finished this book, and it was a while ago now, because big deadline energy continues. I have actually already finished book number 25. It is there off camera, and it's going to be a surprise what that is, unless we're connected on Goodreads, and then you can just look it up there. I don't know. I mean, listen, the internet knows more than anyone else. Or all of us put together, and then a bunch of fictional stuff. So I am there. Is it official before I do the video? I'm at the quarter mark. I'm almost there. The 100 book challenge continues. Are you also a Doris Piserchia fan? Comment. Is this the first you've heard of her? Comment. I don't know, right? Like, comment, subscribe to all stuff. There's the subscribe. There's the algorithmically chosen next video for your viewing pleasure. I have been Phil. This has been Fantasy Author's Handbook. And I will see you very soon for book number 25. And, if time permits, other stuff. Thank you for watching.